How sad. We're still adopting the practices of the people we claim to say were unjust. To do something unjust is not just based in color, it's based on character.
That's right.
Again, I invite you, while you understand, just like the value of the property, which never changes, which never changes. Though you may fall down 7 times, you can rise back up again. As long as you ain't dead, you can walk up and rise up again. You are always equal. But we're still seeing remnants of our minds having to be transformed by a traumatic time in history. And again, while I say we must remember it, there's nothing wrong with remembering it, because a lot of times, like they say, if you do not acknowledge history, you're bound to repeat it. So history has its place. But what history is not intended to do is keep you bound in the past. I see a very senior attorney, like I said, my learned senior. I see a lot of you, I know a lot of you are in leadership positions. Each and every one, because leadership don't only exist in the boardroom too. Let's understand and appreciate that fact. Yep. Leadership can happen in all aspects. You saw a young Miss McCartney came up here. That's a leader. Yes. She's a leader. So leadership exists and is inherent in who we are. It exists within us. I have plenty time left. 5 minutes. Boy, good. So at the end of the day, like I said, each of you have in your own respective way. You sit in the classroom. Some of you. These are some students over here. You sit in the classroom. You see your friend copying. You already see no friend copying it. You see something isn't right. Don't be afraid to help. Don't let that courage still say, oh, I'm scared. Because true leadership, which is the next point, comes with courage. The courage to act. Now let me tell you something. A lot of people would say, oh boy, she failed as small as I am, but I want y'all to know, I know y'all know I don't play. You see my short stature? You know what they say with short people? Yeah. So if you didn't get it from anything or knowing anything about me, just say, boy, you see she's short like that? You know what? She probably bigly for truth. Leadership cannot happen unless you are willing to lead by example. And sometimes leading by example requires you to stand alone or against the grain. Say amen to that. It requires you to stand alone sometimes. Even in the face of everything and everyone, all your friends who look like they saying yes, and that your heart is telling you, no, something ain't right. No, man. Something, you know it isn't right. But yet you sit down because everybody acting like it's right because they know too it ain't right. But simply because you're not standing for right or acknowledging the wrong, they will carry on and do exactly what they feel they want to do. You're giving them the leeway to do what they want to do. But what you have to understand is, when you give that leeway, it will someday affect you or your descendants. Because the system today that we're coddling in every aspect, and not choosing to call you, like I said, you don't have to do it. You can do some things like how we, for some of the scary folk, and call it decency and order. Because what we call it decency and order is just that you're scared to do it. Decency and order. You see the person running up and down and destroying everything. You talk about decency and an order. So would you let somebody steal your car and call it decency and an order and wait till they go? No, you wouldn't. So you see some things happening, and that is not to say that there are not moments in which you can do it discreetly. You don't have to be, again, like I say, loud and proud. And you know what makes the difference about how you do things?